Welcome back to another episode of the Triangle. It's your girl CJ.
And it's Miss America, former Miss America, Brandy. You look it up. It's on Google, baby. Don't do me.
Shit, that's a lot. D is not here, but we have a special guest. It's Miss Rachel,
Yay!
aka medical administrative assistant in a secret place. We're gonna give a name. It's not really a secret. We just don't want stalkers.
I would want you
her.
to say it and then like dub over it like you said something else in somebody else's voice.
Adhesive medical tape.
Adhesive medical tape.
No, seriously, I'm gonna try and see if that works. I don't know if I can do it. Maybe I'll get Rob to say it or something. Just
oh my God, yeah, it would be so
random. Ketchup maker, like just something that makes absolutely no sense.
The ketchup maker I like. Rachel's a very important ketchup maker.
You'd be like, but why? And then we talk nothing about ketchups the whole
nothing
episode.
About the ketchups.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so today we are here to discuss a lot of medically related things with Miss Rachel. Some personal stories I understand that you'll be sharing with us. Whatever you feel comfortable with is cool with us. And whatever details you feel like giving out. If we ask too many personal questions and you're like, bitch, calm down. Just tell us. We don't mind. We don't get offended. Obviously, if I'm dealing with the two Taurus and Virgo.
Supposed to mean? The fuck?
I'm just saying.
Leave us alone, D. I got your back.
Shit. D better come back before he don't got no back to come back to. You go listen to this.
Because I was like, are you really going to be that guy that just, you know how they have like somebody fill in for somebody and then before you know it, it's like, and now you're the new co-host of The Real because so-and-so just never came back. So.
I want an entanglement. I'm here for it.
Entanglement with CJ. Entanglement with CJ.
Oh no, that's too real. People would take it too seriously. We can't be doing all of that. But anyways, I don't know. Where do we want to start today? There's a lot of things. We can start with statistics. We can start with a story. You want to start with statistics about pregnancies and stuff, or do we want to go straight into a story? Don't everybody talk at once, you know.
No, the only thing
I'm not talking because CJ said I was going to talk a lot, so I'm not talking.
It's because somebody had a drink that was absolutely delicious looking, but she already told us she was slightly sloshed. That's what I'm saying. That's all. See, she's making weird movements already. Just see. And Rachel joined. So it doesn't matter. Anybody who's not CJ on this podcast becomes that person for whatever
Oh my
reason.
God, they do. They just fall in line, so it doesn't matter.
Obviously, you guys listen or watch and you know what's up. And
we're
that's
so
annoying.
anti-CJ, it doesn't matter who the fuck fills in. We're just like, nope.
Yeah, what is up with that? Why is everybody okay with picking on the CJ?
and you know, see, when CJ decided to be like, oh, the common denominator and Brandy having beef with everybody is Brandy. When we're talking about old school stuff, I'm like, the common denominator of people being sick of CJ's shit is CJ. So it's not our fault. And
First of all, nobody ever gets sick of CJ. It's just that
where's
CJ
Rob
leaves.
Rob, clap twice if you need help, bro.
Pineapples if you're under distress. Here for you.
That's like my favorite word to use as a fucking secret word. Pineapples. Just say pineapples.
Just say pineapples. Oh. But I know a couple of days ago, Rachel and I were talking, and we talk because we're actually friends. Shade, no shade. And I was learning stuff in a CJ-esque way. She would hit me with the did you knows, and I was like, what? Because as some people know, I would like to have another baby one day, but I know time frames and you're thinking about your body and age and all this rest of this that factors into it. Right. And something we didn't even talk about with that too, Rachel, is I'm like, I would prefer if I'm blessed enough to have another kid, to have a Black doctor, to have a Black OBGYN, just because I feel safer in those settings, because the statistics are startling with how many babies are dying, moms are dying when it comes to women of color. And since she works in that field, I feel like she could share light from a professional standpoint. And then anything you want to share personally without those experiences, we would love to hear.
Like, I will tell you guys anything you want to know. Don't feel like you're gonna hurt my feelings by bringing it up, because I definitely want to shine light on something that I had no idea. So the story is that I found out earlier this year that I was pregnant. And then I found out that I was pregnant. Let me tell you how quick this went. I found out that I was pregnant like on Tuesday or Wednesday. By Monday that next week, was gone.
Wow, that was really
I
fast.
got no time to feel happiness. I got no time to enjoy it. It was literally there, and then it was gone with no explanation besides these things happen. And you're lucky that it happened at this state.
Is that what the doctor told you?
That is what the doctor told me.
Oh my God.
So let me give you some background. So earlier in January this year, you know, I'd missed my period, and I was just like, me and my husband have been trying to have a baby. At that point, it was about a year.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, maybe it's just not going to happen for us. He's just like, yeah, you know, like, I was military, maybe they, you know, like all the stuff that I've been exposed to, I'm not going to be able to have kids. Like, no, it's probably me, you know?
Right.
Just, you know.
Yeah, you get to thinking like that.
You know?
Right.
So, you know, like, days go by, and we're both just like, man, I still haven't gotten my period yet. You know, things are feeling like my period's about to start, because I get the exact same symptoms for pregnancy, like mirrored, like throwing up and like, and like seriously, like the weight gain and the bloat and everything.
Right.
It all mimics the same thing, which a lot of women, you know, of course, you know, you don't know until you know.
Right.
So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer and then I'll test out. And my mom's just like, you know, she's just like, with these things, it's better to know as soon as possible. You should test as soon as possible, just to know so that you can get your body. She goes, I know that, you know, you guys have been trying, so that means that I was already on the prenatals, that I was already, you know, like not drinking.
Right, trying to get your body easier to be pregnant.
And then like, so one day I was drinking ginger ale, and ginger, I love ginger ale, and it didn't taste right. Like it like the taste of it literally made me sick to my stomach, and I was just like,
yeah.
So I went home and I told my husband and my mom, and they were both like, yeah, you need to test out like as soon as possible. So I tested, and I swear I walked into the bathroom like Marshawn Lynch in that interview. So I don't get a fine.
Pretty much. You know I'm here.
I am here. I'm only here so I don't get a fine. I walked in there confident, because I was just like, we've done this before. We've been down this road. I've tested plenty of times and negative. So I'm like, I'm not even thinking. Well, to my surprise, I pee on the stick 2 seconds later.
And the line shows up.
It says pregnant in big bold letters. I'm like, we're not gonna fuck this up. We're gonna do it with like the one that says pregnant, not pregnant.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, those lines, baby.
Clear blue, that technology. So
technology.
That good old technology. No waiting 2 minutes for me. Like it literally popped right up, and I was like, okay. So me and my husband kind of like take a second. We kind of like look at each other, and then we fucking start celebrating.
Right.
Kissing. I call my mom immediately, wake her up because she's in Texas. So she's like behind me, and I'm just like, oh my God. And she's excited. So we immediately start looking for OBs, because the primary care doctor that I had, because you're supposed to get like a pre-pregnancy appointment. I went to go get mine, and the only thing that they told me is that like, you've gained a lot of weight. You might have a thyroid issue, which comes more to what I was saying about Black people and getting the proper medical care.
Listen.
Like, she wasn't hearing the reason why I was there.
Yeah, I might have to share mine too. Yeah, absolutely.
So all she was saying is that I have a thyroid issue. And I'm just like, no, sometimes I just get chunky when I'm stressed. Like,
that's so crazy though.
Down, you know, like I have a fat face, like cheeks. That's all I am is cheeks. I'm a big pie face. So
not a pie face.
I'm a pie. Is big eyes and you know, cheeks and everything. So anywhoosies, we look up a doctor, we call them the next day. Like, all right, well, when was your last period and everything? We go through that. And about that time, I was going on 8 weeks. So they were like, okay, well, you can actually have your appointment at 10 weeks. So that would be February 14th. Valentine's Day,
right.
I was like, what better gift it would be to find out the news you're doing okay. So we book our appointment. We're happy. And we sit down, and I go to work the next day, and I don't want to be at work because I can't think because I'm distracted.
Right.
Lovey-dovey. So we take out work early and everything, and we enjoy, you know, life. And then, so that's like Wednesday, Thursday. So Saturday morning, early in the morning, I wake up to use the bathroom as you do when you're pregnant.
Yes.
And it's dark in my room. I go to use the bathroom. Something don't feel right. On a light and on like nothing but like, you know, like the same clots you would get like when your
uterus gets rid of its uterine lining.
And immediately I scream. I go grab my husband and I'm just like, I'm bleeding. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Like, we need to figure it out. Like, I'm freaking out. I call my mom. My mom's just like, I bled when I was pregnant with all of you guys. It's normal to bleed a little bit. Is it a lot of blooders or a little bit? And I'm just like, well, how do you know if it's a lot or a little bit?
Right. Because you're like already freaking out that there's any of it showing up. Yeah.
And she's like, is it like your second day of your period? Like, you know, all hell's broke loose. And I'm like, no, it's more like, you know, the first day of your period when you're like sneeze and you're just like,
oh yeah.
And that Raven Simone like look into the something's going on. And she's just like, well, wait, and we'll see if it stops. And if it doesn't stop, you know, she goes, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna call DC, who is our family friend, my auntie, who is a nurse. And she's like, she goes, I'm gonna go ahead and give her a call, and I'm gonna have her call you and kind of triage you through the phone. And I was like, okay. So like, we're waiting, and I'm just like, it would be so cruel for me to find out like 4 days ago that this finally happened for us, for it literally to end. Like, it would be so cruel, but it would be just my luck. And he was just like, my husband was like, no, we can't think like that. We have to stay positive. Remember, we were reading, because we started reading books and everything, because we were super excited. We went out, we got books and everything. We're sitting there reading. He's just like, well, what you feel and what you do literally affects your baby. So he's like, you gotta stay positive. You gotta do all that stuff. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm just like, it's over. There's no way. This is not a good sign. So we have our daughter that weekend. So it's Saturday morning. She's expecting to play and everything like that. And Brad's like, no, she needs to be resting with her feet up.
Right.
My auntie said I should go to the emergency room. I tell her, I'm like, I don't want to take my child to the emergency room.
Right.
Like during the beginning stages of COVID, I really don't want her in
there. Because
I don't
everybody's
want her mother either. I don't want her mother in our business about like, well, haha, it didn't take me that long to get pregnant.
Oh Lord.
You get to see the seed of mine all the time in your face. Like, I just didn't need that. So
right.
Like, you know what, let me just go ahead and just keep it. So we took her home on Sunday, which is Super Bowl Sunday. So we go to the emergency room, we check in, there's nobody in there, which is typical because it's Super Bowl Sunday. Most people haven't hurt themselves yet.
No, it's after the Super Bowl.
They wait till halftime and then it's crazy, and then all the whoop whoops and the starts happening. So we go to the emergency room. I walk in there and the lady behind the desk is like not interested in what I'm saying.
What do you mean? Like, you were telling her what happened and she was just like nonchalant about getting you in there?
Not like, she just didn't seem like she cared. She's just like, well, what brings you in today? And I'm just like, I'm 8.5 weeks pregnant and I just started bleeding. And she's just like, oh, okay. Sign this form and everything. And I'm just like sitting there trying to hold back the tears. I could feel like I'm still like bleeding. And I'm just like, this is urgent.
Right.
She's just like, all right, well, we'll call you back. It didn't take long. No one was in there. They called me back. I go into the room. It's like, of course, an hour for them to see you.
Of course.
And you can hear them laughing about Super Bowl and everything. Eventually, a guy comes in there and puts an IV in me. And he's just like, yeah, like, what brings you folks in, And I'm just like, I'm pregnant and I'm bleeding. And he's just like, oh. And he kind of just like backs away. And I'm just like, don't y'all have a chart or something like that? You just gonna come hook somebody with an IV and not even gonna
not even know what's going on?
That's it's so insensitive. It's one thing to be calm in a professional way because you don't want to freak out the patient. It's another thing to do that and there's no compassion behind that because you don't know what they're dealing with. And then even when you do know what they're dealing with, be compassionate and just not kind of flippant. Like, what brings you folks in? Read the goddamn room. Like,
just.
So finally, like after an hour or so, the NP comes in and she, of course, asks me again, what brings you in here? And my husband starts to talk and she like not shushes him, but she treated it like I am this abused, battered, frail woman whose husband pushed her down 10 flights of stairs, and that's the reason why she's in the hospital right now. Like, I have bruises all over my neck and something like that. And my husband's just like, why the hell would you treat me like I beat her?
Because he's Black.
He's not Black.
What is he?
My husband is Mexican and white.
Oh, girl. Same thing. He's not. Does he look white?
He looks like a white.
Okay. Do you think it was because you were bleeding?
I don't know. The first things that like she asked me was, have you guys been engaging in intercourse?
Right.
And I'm just like, that's the first thing you want to do when you find out that you're pregnant and bleeding, Like last night we got it in. We had a whole 2-hour session. It was really intense. I was like, no, like,
and the only saving grace with some question like that is if you've come across enough cases where vaginal bleeding is of that magnitude is that common because we're into some freaky ass shit.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just weird. The whole vibe was weird. Brian picked up on it immediately. I picked up on it immediately. And I was just like, why is she treating you like you are just released from jail? And I'm this like poor Black girl who's in there with like her 8th abortion or whatever, and she's pregnant again, and now her boyfriend is throwing her down a flight of stairs. Like, it was weird. So then like the tech guy who came in early to put the IV in, he comes back and he's like, yeah, we're gonna get ready to take you back and we're gonna do an ultrasound. And I'm just like, well, can my husband come with me? And they were just like, he was like, yeah, of course. He's just like, we definitely want somebody in the room with you to support you and everything, hold your hand. And I was like, okay, cool. The tech comes back and gets me, and the lady very rudely says to my husband as he gets up to walk me out, you can't come.
What?
Sit down.
So there's like no communication between everybody.
Sir, I'm sorry. You can't come back there. It was, you can't come back here.
Man.
She did this by herself.
And then even him being mixed and passing, some people, and I'm not speaking on like everybody that Rachel experienced, but some people treat you funny as soon as they see you're a mixed couple.
That's what I was getting at. It's even if he's white, because it's like what I said about Rob and some people he may know, people are going to still be behind his back and call him a nigga lover. Right. It's going to happen. I'm just saying. But anyway, so what happened after that when you guys went? But did he get to go back there anyway? No.
He said absolutely not. So of course he got upset, but he knows. They were like, we're going to call security.
What?
And
call security.
And he was just like, I don't want to. He goes, I can't not be there when you get back. So I'm going to go outside for a minute while you're back there. And when they told him he couldn't go back there, because I'm literally like, I have panic attacks. So I'm sitting there shaking and I'm trying really hard to remember everything, but I can't. That's the reason why I need him there.
Right.
I remember when I'm panicking. So they're sitting there getting ready to wheel me back. And I'm just like, no, wait, I need him because I can't remember without him.
Right.
And they're just like, no, you'll be fine. Literally, no, you'll be fine.
Wow.
And that's literally her whole ass husband.
My whole husband, legally, we've been married.
That's so crazy. I don't understand how that even happened. I'm not married to Rob legally yet, only been his fiance. And when he went to the hospital, I don't think I was even engaged to him at that point, and I was still allowed back there for his flu thing. I think I was engaged when he went in for his car accident, but I was still allowed back there. Like, I don't understand why something that major, they wouldn't let your husband back there.
Right.
That's crazy.
Well, if they were already kind of, for whatever reason, blaming him for this, because we're not saying this is right, guys. We're just trying to give you guys listening content. Rachel's a very petite woman. Right. Like, she's high school passable as far as stature in
face
her face.
And all.
Face and body. You know how some people are just small, but they face look old as fuck? Not her.
No. Small and looking like she's 12.
Right. Yeah. And she's also a a lighter skinned Black woman. So
in my group.
I could understand people are kind of like, y'all are dumb as hell. I watch YouTube just to see what they doing. Now I sound like CJ.
A baby be me.
No, for real.
But like I can understand why people would treat her kind of like a little Fabergé egg, like, okay, she's fragile, we got to protect her from this guy, because I can only imagine just the difference in mass and height between you and your husband if they're already assuming this had to be domestic violence, which shouldn't be assumed in the first place, because then it's like, are people of color more violent than white couples?
I was getting to that.
You know what I mean?
Because they are assumed to be more violent, which is why words like thug is like thrown around whenever, you know, it's casually thrown around when they see
thug, ratchet, ghetto. That's all code for Black for a lot of people.
Right. So then what happened? Do you get medical help? Like, do they test you out for stuff?
So she took me back and she was like super rude the entire time. Like, obviously this has never happened to me before. I've never been pregnant. I've never had any of this before. And she brings me back to this room. I'm without my husband. I'm visibly shaking because I'm trying in my head to calm myself down.
Right.
So that I can tell this lady how to help me. And she's just like, I need you to undress from the waist down. She goes, put down towels because I know you're bleeding. She's just like, I need you to put your butt on this little like triangle thing so you can be up and everything. And I'm going to stick a wand and I'm going to do an ultrasound. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, but why couldn't my husband be here? There's plenty of room in this room. And she's just like, we've had issues before with, you know, like loved ones and parents coming in the background for ultrasounds, and we've had issues or whatever. Basically, the lady didn't really have an explanation of why he couldn't be back there. There was no legal reason. It was just more of like, this lady's been beat, and we're gonna see if she's gonna like tell us anything, so we can have the police come grab this. You know. This
just trying to see what the story is, I guess.
For reference, I'm 5 foot, and my husband's 6 foot.
Oh yeah, y'all look like.
I'm little.
Yeah,
that's how my mom and my dad look.
She's a little wall. PJ was about her same size when she came to visit for Comic-Con.
Chin on head.
Yeah, and now that PJ is taller than me, he's definitely towering over Rachel.
Oh, so, wow.
More context for the listeners. She's tiny.
It's just tiny.
Small. I am small.
Thumbelina, bitch.
after the ultrasound and everything else, did they come up with a diagnosis? Did they like actually help you through any of this?
No. What happened was after the ultrasound, they told me that I'm probably not as far along as I thought. Because what they said initially was that my levels had dropped.
Okay.
It's like, your levels are really low, so a lot of times people think that they're a certain, you know, week along. it's not always accurate. And I'm
right.
just, all right, cool. And I'm just like, but my last period was in December. So it would make sense for me to be like 8 or 9 weeks at this point.
At least 7 or 8, like at the
like 7 going on 8.
Because that's Super Bowl weekend. That's the first weekend of February. So that's at least 2 months already.
Yes.
At least.
And they would say, yeah, you're probably not as long as you think you are. They're like, what we're going to recommend for you after everything's said and done, they do like the ultrasound, and then they do the vaginal test after that. And they just take scrapings off of your vagina.
Yeah.
With a huge Q-tip. Every girl who's had a PAP, it's pretty much like that.
Okay, yeah.
So they did that, and they told me, they're like, well, she goes, you don't need to have any more sex.
What do you mean?
She goes, you don't need to have any more sex for a couple days until the bleeding has stopped. And I was just like, we're not having, I mean, obviously.
So she thought that this was caused by you guys having intercourse? I mean, that's the only reason why she would say you don't have to have any more sex. Like, she's assuming.
She's assuming that, like, he's, like, raping my brains out or something.
That is so crazy.
And raping me and doing all bad things to me. And I'm just like, this is my freaking husband, you dumb broad.
Jesus Christ.
All the while being super disrespectful to me. Like, like, not acknowledging the fact that I'm just like, I am not a battered woman. I am not a battered woman.
And the fact that you've asked them repeatedly that you want him in the room.
Right. And
like if they, because I know for a fact, and because I have friends in the medical field as well, and if they do go the route of, you can't be in the room with her, like telling the husband or boyfriend or whatever, and they do separate them, at some point, the woman being by themselves will tell the nurse or the doctor or whatever practitioner they're there with that something usually bad is happening, or try to tell them. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that she kept asking them to have her husband in there should have been a sign of, okay,
right,
like, this is legit. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. I think we should talk about some of the statistics too, and the rest of your story too. So we'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, let me start my timer before I forget. So basically, what we're getting to is that the treatment of people of color, especially Black women, especially when they have anything to do with pregnancy, is terrible statistically. So what I read was that Black women are 3 times likelier to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women are across the nation here, which is absolutely insane. And the fact that they're denied proper care in general is the other thing. So, like, when you were done with all of that, did they have any aftercare for you when you left the hospital?
Listen, when they told me I can go home, they left me with the impression that I was still pregnant.
They didn't tell you anything?
They did not tell me, and this is my first time ever experiencing pregnancy, so I could not tell.
Jesus.
They told me that I just needed to stay home and feed up, relax, take it easy, and call my OB and see if I can get in an appointment emergency. Call the triage line and make sure that, like, I speak with the nurse and have them guide me. And if I didn't have an OB, they had one for me, which we'll get into, like, how they tried to charge me for that OB that I've never seen before, but they sent my records and stuff over to him and then tried to charge me $1,000-some-odd
for somebody you didn't see?
Someone I didn't see, someone that they had took upon themselves to.
But they told you to call your own OB.
Yes, because I told them I have one. They were like, well, if you don't want one or you can't get in soon enough, I can get you over to ours and they can see you next day. And I was just like, no, I'm like, they will see me.
That's so insane. Like, seriously. And you know, miscarriages are more common than people do think. That is one thing. So, like, if you're in your first trimester, it's about 10 to 15% as a rate. Second trimester, I think it was 1 to 5%, right? So it's more common. But the fact that they had no type of, like, mental care, no type of physical care, no type of any follow-up other than billing you for somebody you didn't even fucking see is absolutely bonkers for me. Like, I don't know how to, like, here's the thing, like, because I'm going to go into my short little story. So I thought, well, I don't think, I know that I have PCOS. That's polycystic ovarian syndrome, where you get polyps on your ovaries and it gets very hard to get pregnant. So for the longest time, I didn't even think I could have a baby. So I wasn't even worried about anything like that. You know what I mean? So like, with that said, before I got pregnant, I was having bouts of anxiety attacks, and I didn't know they were anxiety attacks, coupled with my lack of potassium in my body. Didn't know I had lack of potassium either. So what happened was, because of the work I was doing, I was working crazy amounts of hours, little sleep and all of that. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up thinking I was having a heart attack. Like, dead sleep, wake up and go get my mom and be like, you're going to have to drive me to the ER. And this happened like maybe, I want to say like 4 or 5 times in a span of 3 months, which is a lot, going to the ER 4 or 5 times in 3 months. And every time I went, they would be like, you're just stressed out, you need to relax. And they would just give me this pill and be like, it'll chill you out. Did it work? Yeah, because it's a pill to keep you chill. So I would go back home. I'd be good for another week or week and a half. And then I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking I'm having a heart attack. So then I started, like the 4th or 5th one, I started having heart palpitations. Now, being brown, on Black and Asian on both sides, they are very high in heart related complications in both sides for me, right? Because being Black and being Asian, I'm like, shit, those were definitely palpitations. I'm definitely like about to have something happen to my heart. So I go back to the fucking ER and nothing. Same thing. You're stressed. You need to sleep. How's your food intake looking like? You need to lose weight, blah, 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 because I'm chunky and all that. You know, the typical shit that we hear that women go through. And I was like, I know I had already made an appointment with my regular practitioner, who happens to be a POC and who happens to be real chill. I miss her. She left the practice a while ago, and I'm sad because she was my favorite and my mom's favorite. We both had the same doctor. So Miss Dr. Jacqueline, I'll just go by her first name. Dr. Jacqueline, I got in with her. She was like, let's hook you up to an EKG. Like, something don't sound right. Like, nobody's done that. The 5 times I went to the ER for this shit, even after I told them I had a heart palpitation, because I was like, I would be driving and I could feel it in my heart. And then I was like, am I just like anxious? What is happening? So it turns out my body can't like hold on to or create enough potassium to like keep my heart going. So I had to take like over the counter, like big ass pills of potassium to keep my body straight. Like, which can, like, this is a disease from like the 1940s that people would die from because of lack of potassium to keep your heart beating.
But the fact that it took about 5 times to get to that point is what we're talking about. Even getting more into depth with Black Lives Mattering, with Black women, women of color, even women that seem larger than what people have the patience for, because that fat shaming is real. I don't find CJ fat, but I can understand someone looking at her and being like, well, you just need to lose weight, honey. And this is kind of making it your problem. And we deserve to wake up and go get treated and go get help without fearing or anxiety that we're just going to be treated however, because of how much we weigh, because of our skin tone, because of being in an interracial relationship like you guys are experiencing. That's the shit that we're talking about. That's another layer of injustice that needs to be solved, because we are concerned.
The fact that only, 5.3% of physicians across the nation is Black.
I'm not surprised.
5.3. Like, how insane is that? Like, that's it. So if
then what some of them will say too is, because I was going back and forth with somebody who was Black about the statistics of teachers, and I was like, well, most like 80-something% of teachers are white women still. And I'm like, do you know how still? Okay. And I'm like, it would be so powerful to see more people of color, men and women, in those positions, to be in these kids' face at a young age. So you're just not thinking that white men rule the world and their white counterparts also. And it's the same thing when we're dealing with something like physicians. But he was coming from the standpoint of, well, more people should want to be that instead of like rappers and basketball players. I was like, that is so ignorant to say, because almost every kid has a fantasy of being like, I'm going to be Superman, or I'm going to be this. You have your fantastical shit, but then you have your real shit. And I'm like, it all starts with these neighborhoods and these schools. So again, we're going back to a school problem. And if our school's not getting proper funding, if I don't have the best of the best teachers, if they don't even have a will to teach because they're just sick of this shit like we are, what do you expect to come out of certain districts and neighborhoods? Not education. 5-star doctors. That's why it's such a big deal when you have the first surgeon to do something and they're of color.
Here's the thing. We still have black firsts in 2020.
That's the problem.
2020, we are still having black
first.
Right? I just gave myself chills by saying that.
All up and down our timeline. Like the first black senator to do this, the first female blah, blah, blah for that. And it's a big deal because it doesn't happen often. So if you don't want us to get pats on the back, because some people always feel like we're playing victim or whatever else the case, you wouldn't even have to feel like that if stuff was actually on equal playing field. If there were fair shots given from birth. That way, the only reason Tyrone and Keisha didn't become a doctor or do this, that, and other, because they chose not to. Not because the opportunity wasn't set up for them to succeed. Like even you gotta go above and beyond, and it's unfair.
School districts here, like the one that my kiddo goes to, because she's the older one, they give her an iPad in middle school that she keeps till senior year. They return it when they graduate. Like, you can't go to a district in the ghetto and have a school full of iPads passed out to kids from middle school to high school.
They barely have textbooks.
They don't even have enough computers to be one in a room some places. You know what I'm saying? Let alone a tablet for each kid.
There's like 3 kids in one classroom with one teacher.
Right. So overworked, underpaid teacher. So if you really cared about that and you were really concerned about other people that look nothing like you and don't share your life experience having what you have, you're going to start from the bottom up. You're going to get to the root cause of it.
You know what else is crazy? So while doing my little research for today, I came across an article about the falsehoods that people still have about Black people and their tolerance for pain. This shit had me fucked up. Do you know that still to this day, the first and second year medical trainees, 40% of them think that Black people have a higher tolerance to pain because they have thicker skin and are less sensitive nerve endings.
That's the word. In general, they think we're less sensitive.
We're talking about white medical students that they surveyed, and 40% of them said, but Black people have thicker skin with less sensitive nerve endings. This comes from the history. This is why history is so important to teach.
Well,
they didn't say it in the article, but I'm telling you, this is probably from, more than likely, the fact that, remember where we talked about they would operate on Black women without anesthesia and stuff like that because they thought that they could. This is from like several hundred years ago.
Oh yeah,
and this
Harriet
mentality
Tubman actually had a couple done like right in her head, and this was closer to the end of her life, in her head.
And so this means that that same 100, 200 years ago mentality is still brewing its fucking seed in medical students that are Caucasian right now. The insanity of it all. The fact that you have a textbook that says humans have this type of skin doesn't say Black people. It doesn't say Asians. It doesn't say white people. The epidermis is the same as like a white person's. It's just different.
It ends up fitting the narrative of the Black men being savages and the Black women just being very just tough. And we're not looked at to be just bringing it back to us women of color. We're not looked at to be protected and like we're sensitive and fragile. We don't get that. And when you're already in that mindset because of society, and then maybe you think you have some books and knowledge to back that up for you, naturally these students are going to be like, yeah, sure, of course. I'm never surprised hearing those statistics.
The fact that they think we have thicker skin because we're darker blows my fucking mind? Like, y'all cannot be fucking operating on people.
Oh, no, but dig this. This is how you know it's a real mental illness. People that are prejudiced and racist, definitely. I mean, like, wholeheartedly, because we all have our little prejudices sometimes.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Those ones that just live and breathe that shit, it's crazy how you'll believe, even when it's wrong, the negative stuff about Black people, but you don't want to believe the positive stuff that you hear. You don't want to believe none of that shit.
Oh my God.
You want to debunk and go back and forth about.
Do you know about the school district that got investigated because too many Black kids had a high mark on their yearly fucking testing, and too many people.
I'm gonna head out.
Brandy took her headphones out. And let me tell you this story stuck to me so much when I like watched it, and maybe if I can find the YouTube video, I'll send it to y'all too. You know who Jane Elliott is? That old white lady who
she be getting people together.
She be gathering people by the necks, snatching them up by the ears, by the necks. So if you don't know who Jane Elliott is, she's an older white lady who teaches people. They're gathering necks and ears. I don't know what's happening. She teaches people about racism and how race affects different groups, especially Black people, and the truths about, like, I think one of the biggest one that's going around right now is how big Africa actually is. Africa is big enough to like contain every other continent on Earth. So 6 continents can go into Africa by itself, not countries, continents.
You better let people know the difference, because
I'm just saying, because I've had too many conversations where people like, yeah, because you know, like Europe and Asia. I'm like, no. Continent.
France is a continent, okay?
France is not a continent.
Know your geography. Know your history.
So she had this video where she had different people doing shit, but there was this old white teacher on there who was talking about, I guess she was retired at the point they were filming this, but she was talking about God, she was telling this other white person how surprised she was when one of the little Black girls fell and broke skin, and she saw that it was pink underneath as well, like herself. Look at y'all's faces. Look at y'all. Brandy is leaving the room. Brandy left the camera. Rachel's like, bye, I'm out too. Everybody's leaving. I shit you not. She said that.
Don't tell me shit else.
She said that shit out loud. You can find it on YouTube. It's one where they segregate, do the whole.
What did she think was there?
I don't know. Like, we bleed green. I don't know.
Right, like chocolate milk, snakes. Like
her skin was pink like us. She was like, I didn't know that about Black kids.
That's how crazy they.
She was teaching till like the 80s and 90s, y'all. Mm-hmm. Listen,
I'm not surprised.
She could have taught one of us, y'all. Like,
I'm not surprised, because they also end up growing up in their own protective social bubble. And I don't know a lot of people who are not of color that go out of their way to get that color experience unless they're being entertained by us. If they're being entertained by us, if it's a rap concert, if it's a basketball game, they're going to be around the niggas all day long. But outside of that, it's not finna be
that. What did Lil Wayne say? He said the most people in his fucking audience when he does lives and tours is white folks.
Oh, they're white. Hands down. I saw Bryson Tiller twice. And I think we talked about this in an episode many moons ago. Talented young brother. And the majority of the people at that Detroit concert, white, baby. Like, white.
It's just insanity.
Concert not too long ago, like 2 years ago. White.
Who was this?
Snoop Dogg.
Oh, yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
Him and Martha are best friends. White people are in on it now. He's in on it. He got a daytime show with her smoking weed and doing cooking and things. So
all of the things.
They're doing it. Because, you know, when white people smoke, it's fancy.
Oh, yeah.
And when Black people do it, it's
bad. Yeah. It's bad when we're doing it.
Like, the fact that Black folks are still incarcerated for smoking weed or carrying weed, and white people have magazines out at the grocery store that you can buy talking about yogis and weed or cooking with fucking weed or whatever.
Oh, whole ass restaurants. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
As soon as they started making it legal, I'm like, release everybody.
Why is everybody not released? At least in the states where they're legal. At least.
Absolutely. That should be the end of it.
I mean, and the fact that there's like CBD shops, I feel like the CBD shop states should do the same as well.
I believe it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like weed was a way for people to self-medicate anyway. So,
well,
I'm just saying.
Earth, it's natural. Why are we still like?
I don't know. I ain't never heard anybody die from weed. Have you?
A weed overdose.
It's like it makes you more violent. You're more capable.
Wow. How?
What?
Okay. First of all, I've never smoked before in my life.
You're right.
No,
Okay.
I'm that lame person that's just like, oh,
she's fun sober. That's what she is. Sober fun.
She's high on life, you guys.
Over here, just living that old lady's life. Never once stepping out of my bubble, doing like, you know, a drug here or there, thoughting around the block or anything like that.
No, not thoughting around the block.
Not me, but that
no.
happen. So don't even bother being good.
I'm done.
Live your life.
I'm done.
What about thoughting across the street? Not so much around the block, but just
Bro, you thought
across the street.
Everywhere and anywhere you want to.
I'm done.
You throw that pussy from here?
I'm done.
Throw that pussy in a circle.
I mean, I get it. I have a goody two shoes that I'm about to marry, so you know, he's never done drugs either. Like,
Rob's never done drugs.
I'm the fucking one with the horns. Like,
I would have lost my life if I bet my life, because I would have bet my life. Rob did little
the only thing he ever
drugs.
does or did and does is drink alcohol, that's it.
I will say though, when you like alcohol, you're kind of like, I am good on everything else.
No, bitch, I was not. I did all the things under the sun. Well, not anymore, CJ, but you know.
Did you snort a line? Did you snort a line?
That I never got into that. Like I didn't want white people drugs.
Right.
Is that
I feel like you're going too far with that.
I did not want white folk drugs. What I mean by that is like heroin.
You didn't want no heroin?
I didn't want
heroin.
You
want that heroin, girl?
Have you ever seen anybody fucking coked out and on heroin?
Honey,
I used to see so many people on
it.
They're just like.
And have you seen like how their faces, like all this shit starts deteriorating? And
they're
I'm like, oh my
meerkats that are fucking zombified. That's what that looks like.
It's not a good look. I'm like, if I have a vice, I prefer it not to be seen on the outside. Okay.
I mean, I could not do it.
Skin just have like all those sores and everything, like
girl, and they should be all red and raw right here, like it's diaper rash or something.
Girl. Listen, so in Japan, mushrooms were legal till 2003, April of 2003. I remember this vividly because we were all sad in April of 2003. But like I used to do shrooms, which have no side effects as long as you get the right stuff. Like most of them are naturally made. It's just like weed and stuff. I will never forget when I saw mermaids in the ocean. I will
get the fuck out.
I'm not kidding. Every single wave at the seawall was a fucking mermaid made out of silver.
No, ma'am.
Oh my God. It's still engraved in my brain. But I will tell you this, like I said, I don't ever want to condone drug use, but like I don't feel like weed is one of those things that like when you overdose on weed, that means you're extremely high. Either you're going to be like really cautious of how you're walking around or really sleepy or really hungry. That's it. Like
I think I judge people off that like they would even alcohol, where I'm like, if you're doing your wine every other day or you're smoking your weed pretty frequently, as long as it ain't fucking up your business and your family, that's your business.
I think that's the part, because alcohol can be just as damaging or worse than weed if you're an alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? And I think that falls in the same category. If you, like you said, if weed is the main reason why you're going to work to pay for your fucking vice, then you are a weedaholic.
Or if something happened to where they were like, everything's illegal now, so you couldn't smoke weed or drink alcohol.
And you couldn't handle it.
If you can't go a month or something without that shit, you got a problem. You had a problem. I'm just saying.
Like, and I used to smoke cigarettes too. Like, those are worse than fucking weed. Like,
definitely worse.
220 carcinogens. Every single cigarette is like, did you know? I'm going to ruin some lives right now. Every slice of regular bacon is like smoking 5 cigarettes. You're welcome.
I don't care.
Yes, I knew that was going to happen. Yes. Somebody was going to say it.
Rebel.
I'm I'm just like, I don't care.
The amount of chemicals.
Yeah, the yelling. CJ's the white woman, and you're the cat sitting down. I'm still eating it. I don't know.
I'm still gonna eat it. Damn it! It's just like
Oh God!
No, seriously.
Wow.
When I read that, I was like, oh well, I won't be indulging in too much pork. It's pork bacon. It's not the other ones. I believe it's pork bacon.
Like, well, I've gotten more into turkey bacon, but that's still alarming.
It is alarming because I mean, you can go to Wendy's or something. I think it's Wendy's where they have like the Baconator.
The Baconator.
That's like 20 cigarettes in a sandwich. Like, if you think about it that way, you don't ever want to touch that shit again.
You're just eating. Which is someone needs to do like a video of them just eating cigarettes with the buns, because that's apparently the equivalent.
And it's really
barbecued
amazing.
Cigarettes. Nom.
That I even went that long. I started smoking when I was like 13. Like,
what the fuck were you going through, bitch? Like
nothing.
At 13.
I was in Okinawa where everybody did it. So that
she's
was
over there
stressing
thing. Like, oh, they don't have a Sailor Moon outfit in my size. Fuck this shit.
Basically.
I am stressed.
Off the internet. Damn it.
What you mean y'all don't have higher than a C cup?
Yo, for real. Like, what is that? No, for real though. Like, I started smoking and drinking and doing all the things under the sun when I was like 13 and 14. Like, when we
is it because Dan's your brother? Because he's stressful.
He is stressful, but he
stresses me out.
He drank and stuff too. I remember, like, you remember the America Fest, like the 4th of July party they would do at the parking lots and the hangar. I hate these niggas. If you're not,
we didn't even do that day. We didn't even do anything.
Y'all be connecting. I see y'all. I see y'all.
D, I'm trying to do you so well.
Oh, she's excelling. She's phenomenal.
No, for real though. Remember those America Fests that we did? We actually even opened some of them, but I remember going to one of them and my brother came from the other side with his little friends and he was like holding this orange juice bottle. It was just chock full of vodka. It was just like, oh my God. And I could just smell it on his breath. He was like, hey, Joanna. I was like, oh my God, what? Like, please just step away from me. But
I'm surprised you guys are alive.
Listen,
these stories I keep hearing.
The stories.
The Okinawa stories are never ending. Shit, between Oki and San Antonio, I'm surprised that
Oh yeah, those San Antonio stories. I'm like, girl, dude. Texas, am I right?
Yeah, Texas. Because even when I came back the second time, before I settled down with my man, I was like, yup. It was pretty intense. Same thing with
so
Nebraska.
You know, that's the key. That's the Sierra CJ prayer. You cut up with people you ain't got no business being with, like she was with Future, like CJ was with half of Texas. And then you meet your husband.
You gotta listen. I feel like you should cut up a little bit. That's just me. It worked for me because I got it out of my system. Like, I don't even want to go to a club no more. I don't want to go to a bar. Like, if I go to a bar, I want to be like an upscale, loungy, jazzy type of thing where I can chill.
On bottle service now.
Yes, like, you know, like the one. Or like we go to like a dinner and a show.
I'm not gonna lie though, I still enjoy at least once a year a good hole in the wall ratchet spot. However, it's like a 35 and up hole in the wall ratchet spot. No, like that way it's our level of it. It ain't really like 21-year-olds and shit.
So we did that. Well, that was our once a year fetish ball where we put on costumes and went all out.
Yeah, so right? I don't mind like having
that bar is closed because of COVID.
I'm not surprised.
So that thing has been around for 30 some odd years, man. I'm hoping they come back though. I hope they come back strong. We'll see. I can't go nowhere though this year, probably.
Oh, honey, that's a wrap on this year. I keep telling people, save it for next year because this is it.
Listen,
you better hope them tickets are refundable. Because
why you playing?
Shit.
Because I was supposed to be in Lloyd's face for the Millennium Tour, like April, and girl, I brought
that ass.
I'm not throwing that ass.
Man, we gonna find her with Lloyd on Instagram. She's gonna be...
Hey.
Oh no. Disclaimer: we don't own any rights.
Sing anyway. We're gonna
sing
anyway.
Rights to the song, music, any of that. belongs to the artist. Thank you.
CJ always says,
Rachel, why are you doing this to me?
What do you, whoa. What do you mean? What do you mean?
What is Demetrius today?
Yes. I identify as Demetrius.
I'm done.
I am no longer.
Hey.
Listen.
I remember your dance.
Oh my God, that was so scary.
High school.
Oh my God, that's
I
so
was
scary.
your Joe.
Okay.
Your Joe until I got on dance team after you left because I wouldn't be able to make it when you were there.
Oh no. Your tiny heart would have exploded with my bitchiness. Like
Rachel probably would have been fine because when she was on the dance team, apparently I took over the bitchier role, and
I can see it.
Demetrius was too passive, so I'm like, I got a 5, 6, 7, 8 you bitches together because
so ain't nobody changed. Huh?
Rachel would be over it if girl, nothing changed. Rachel would be over it if Rachel's that person in the group project where it's like, y'all need to practice more than I do. Like I got my part. I ain't got shit else to do. So she would just kind of sit on the side. Like, I'm good. Like, no team effort.
You guys got it? Because I got
5, 6, 7, 8. Well,
she's like, I'm got it.
Over there. And I'm like, I got it. I'm over here in a separate mirror, like practicing it, getting it like super hard.
Playing music in her own headphones. Just.
Good old days.
Ad lib. I was always the one for the ad lib. You were just like, Rachel, your arms are doing something different, but I like it. Everybody else follow that.
Do what she did.
I'll write that down.
Oh my God.
Well, I think that comes from, there's a difference. You know how we like all our dance videos, and sorry, you guys, you're going to listen to talk about our old dancing
Our off-tasking.
Our off-task. It's a difference when you're doing choreography and you're technically doing the choreography, but it's your style, your flavor. So then you'll see something, you'll be like, ooh, that's cute. Or I like how she flicked her wrist. I like how he just did his glide. Because that's their style. That's their interpretation of the moves they just learned. So I love seeing people dance like that. So yeah, it was very much like, not so much do it like Rachel, but it's like, can you put your own stank on it a little bit? Because what we kept getting were like people in the dance team that wanted to dance exactly like Demetrius and I were doing. And the reason we all did so well with there just being the 5, 6 of us is because we were all so different.
It was really different.
So
like we did the same moves, but it was definitely like 5, 6 flavors of it. Like it was never like the same ass thing.
What's your flavor?
Oh,
tell
Lord.
me what's
anyway,
your flavor.
We gotta wrap this up, but thank you for coming, Rachel. Oh Lord, they doing it up.
Thank you for telling your story, because there's like Rachel said, there's so many women that go through miscarriages and don't say anything.
It happens more than you think.
Right.
Yeah.
I would have never have known until I went into the hospital like a week after work, and I like had told my supervisor why I was out. And then she had told, because I work with the mainly females, she had told the doctors up there, and she was just like.
My friend experienced the same thing. She has gone to several, I can't name her or anything, and I'm not going to. She can come on and tell her story too if she wants to, but she had to, I went to one of her appointments with her, and the doctor himself was a fucking asshole. Yeah. Like, he's supposed to be a neurological like specialist, and I was just like, I know you're not talking to us like that. And then he was like questioning her things, and then he turned around and asked me the same question, do you do that? I was like,
it ain't about me.
Right.
And why are you talking to us like we stupid? I was like, oh, I see. What made it worse was he was also brown too, but like Middle Eastern brown, and it made me even more upset. Because I was like, you are part of our fucking like narrative. What the fuck? But it's the medical field.
He was probably more like identifying with white people or being around them, because you're when you crawl up certain ladders, when you're being more educated, unfortunately, it just looks more and more white. So you just assimilate with all that shit.
A lot of times
when you have people that are trying to relate to you, like, hey, come on now, you with us. They're like, no, I'm not.
Exactly. That's crazy. But anyway, for real, we both really appreciate you coming in. I'm sure Dee will appreciate you filling in his ridiculousness as well. He's gonna listen or watch this. He'll be like, I'm gonna have to change my schedule. I mean, come on back.
If you ever need someone to fill in,
can you fill me in?
Oh no! Oh my God, he was one of my
shout out to Craig David, because I was living.
He's
for
still
him.
putting out music.
He is. I still got it on my playlist, baby. Yes. His music is still hitting.
I don't even care. I love his
can
old
still
sing live R&B sounding.
Can he sing live though? Do you sound good live though?
He still sings good live. I'm like,
yeah. That's the good part.
I've been to a million Chris Brown concerts. Let me tell you.
Ooh, child. We finna leave Chris alone now. We finna leave Chris alone.
Chris Brown, but I've been to like 4 or 5 concerts. It don't sound that great.
Girl, you know he can't sing. Do you really go to a Chris Brown concert to hear him sing?
No.
But Usher, baby, Usher can sing.
Well, Usher can sing.
Usher can still sing.
For sure.
Although he still kind of struggles a bit with dancing, which I feel like when you're an artist, you get yourself in that hole where if you're doing too much on stage, even when you're 40 and 50, people are still expecting that. Yeah. And I'm like, Mariah Carey did it right, because she's like, I'm gonna drink this champagne and y'all finna get these songs.
You about to dance behind me. She was like, I'm just gonna be like,
give me your
love. She's like, boy, you look so good.
Got disclaimer, we don't own any music, words, lyrics, none of that. I can't. Anyway, I guess this is where I wrap up, where they go crazy a little bit at the end. So if you've enjoyed our podcast thus far, please make sure to subscribe to one of your favorite podcast platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you hit the like button, comment below, hit that notification bell. I can't believe they just keep going. We drop our new episode every Thursday at noon Central, and our low news angle current events episode is every Monday at 9 a.m. Look at them. Oh God. Okay. Anyway, well, stay woke, stay safe, blessed, logical. If you black, stay black. If you're not, support POC and Allies Unite. We will catch you later. Bye.
I'll be here.